Hi, Steve Arterburn here. I want to talk to you about unangering yourself. So the title of this is Unanger Yourself. I was reading some just different articles and things, research on anger. And one of them says, what you really ought to do is think about things that make you happy. Well, I wasn't happy to see that somebody was suggesting something so superficial if you're dealing with anger. I was angry about it. No, not really, but it was kind of interesting. And then I read another one that says, well, here's how we deal with this anger. We got to go exercise. Well, exercise is a great thing to do, but is that really going to resolve what's inside of you that's causing a lot of discomfort and maybe some disruption in some relationships? I want to get to the what do we do that really fixes this thing. Okay, so we've got to go back and we've got to take a little bit of time to figure out, was there an original insult, trauma, abandonment, or something that kind of filled our anger vat up 3/4 full early on? You see what I'm saying? So we've got this container, and you can only contain so much anger in it. And then it starts to spew out and spill over. Well, if you had some original trauma, insult, neglect, abandonment, then that's going to get the vat full of anger, and you're going to carry that around. Then something's going to come along and add to it. I have to tell you this. I had great parents, but I had 2 older brothers, and I really felt like they were the ones raising me a lot of the time. So I was a little bit bugged that by the time I came along, parenting wasn't fascinating to my parents, and these 2 people, my brothers, were in charge of me. And that kind of put a little bit of anger, bitterness, resentment in the old vat. And so, when I had the chance to rebel against that whole thing, I did. But stop for a minute and just look back and think, was there something that was that original hurt that caused some anger or produced fear or regret, however you've emotionally interpreted that? Maybe it's one of the reasons that something more recent has filled that anger vat to overflowing. And so then we have to ask ourselves, what was it later in life that just filled that anger vat right on up? For me, I was married to somebody that had an affair and then divorced me. That did it. I was really quite angry about that. Turned that in, sunk down into a deep depression. And I was not going to come out of that depression until I dealt with the anger. The original hurt was dealt with by me coming up with this little thing in my head that I heard somebody else say. They did the best they could with what they knew at the time. That's why my parents turned me over to my brothers. They were trying to make a living. They were busy. They did the best they could. They didn't want to hurt me. So that helped lower the amount. But then with this second horrible offense, I had to see it, and I had to look at the source of it, my contribution maybe to difficulty in the relationship. And what did it present to me? What was the result? And the result for me was tremendous fear. It made me scared to death for my life, what had been done. So not only was I angry about this, but it caused me to experience tremendous fear for the future. Thus, I'm even more angry about what happened. So we have to look at what happened, how did it make me feel, and what is it that I was literally afraid of. A lot of times, the anger is the visible expression of the reality of fear. Am I afraid I'm going to die or be controlled or lose control? Am I afraid I'm going to be neglected? All those kinds of things are things to look at that could be caused by the original and a more recent source of anger. So then once I do that, well, what do? Well, one thing that helps a lot of people is you write a letter to the person that you never sinned. and you write down, here's what you did to me. Here's why I think that's horrible. Here's how I felt. Here's what I'm afraid of, and you write that letter. Now here's what I think is the real key. You take that letter and you sit down with a therapist and you go over that letter with a therapist, a tried and true Christian counselor, and we can help you find that person. Now when you sit down with that letter, you know what's going to happen? Well, if it's going to go the way I would like it to go for you, you're going to identify what you lost in all of this, what that insult or the anger source did to you, and the source of the loss that came. And then you're going to, with that counselor, go through a grieving process where you look at what you did not have or what you lost. Maybe you just simply didn't have a parent that was healthy, or that maybe you deserve better. And so we grieve the loss of the parent we never had. And we go through a grieving process expressing both anger, sadness, and all the other emotions around it. But a counselor can help you do it. You can do it on your own, but a counselor really helps you get there. Then I come to accept the reality that happened to me. I just accept it. I don't endorse it. I don't say it was right, but I accept, yes, this happened to me. And a lot of things happen to people, and this is what I have to deal with now. What happened? Then I embrace my need to get better. So I've looked at what I've lost, I've grieved it, and I've accepted. That's what my life was like. Now I embrace my life now, having been through all of that, and with that embrace, well, I can now start to truly forgive the person that hurt me. And the more I forgive, the more anger I can, or things that cause anger, I can tolerate without having this big, overflowing, huge vat of anger controlling my life and driving me to places that I don't want to be. So I need to get help. And when I get that help, I'm doing something else. I'm preventing myself from ever being called a victim, or ever feeling like a victim, or being a victim. So that's the value of getting good counseling, is you're not going to be a victim. You're not going to be hurt over and over again. You're going to come out of the ashes. You're going to be stronger, but you're not going to walk around with this horrible anger all the time. And when you've gone through all of that, then you can go focus on something happy. Or then you can go exercise without punching a punching bag, rather than punching your mommy or your daddy or whatever the original thing was. Now, if you need some help finding that counselor, call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. But I got to tell you, you are key in unangering yourself. Don't just be an angry person. Don't just think your lot in life is to be miserable all of your life. It isn't. I dealt with it. I got through it, over it, beyond it, and I know that you can too. Steve Arterburn here. Thanks for listening and watching about the unangering process.